The Ben Heck Show is brought to you by Element 14, the electronic design community where you can connect and collaborate with top engineers from around the world. Join now at element14.com. Hello and welcome back to the Ben Heck Show.
So it's that time of year for Earth Day!
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
So this year we've decided we're going to do Salvage Wars.
Salvage Wars. That kind of sounds like a reality show.
Yeah, it kind of does.
I should do my reality show voiceover. This week on Salvage Wars, the Ben Heck crew goes to a thrift shop. Ben, Karen, and Felix are all trying to find the best things to scrap. But who will come out on top of the scrap heap? Will it be Karen, the scrapper Corbeil, Felix, the animal gardener, or Ben Heckendorn? Only one will win, two will lose. 3 makers go in, 1 maker comes out. This week on Salvage Wars. I was born a scrapper in a scrapper town. I lost my mama to a scrapping clown. Now I scrap with my dad and I scrap with my son and I scrap with my stupid brother-in-law.
So also in this episode, we're gonna go into extreme detail about salvaging and scrapping and what to save and how to find it.
We'll show you things Karen has pulled out of projects in the past, even beyond what we find at the thrift shop.
Let's get scrapping.
Sounds like fun.
Amazing hacks.
Where are my dragons?
Inspired designs.
Oh, like I knocked some hot glue loose.
Regrettable acting.
I want to live in a world with Star Wars again!
Each week, Element 14's The Ben Heck Show brings you innovative projects using electronics, engineering, and more.
So it was 9 a.m. Karen, Felix, and I were all waiting for this donation center to open up, right? So when it did, it was pretty much a complete free-for-all. We had to rush between people to the electronics area to start looking for the best items to scrap.
You gonna get that one?
Why, was this what you were gonna get?
I was gonna get this one, but if you're gonna get that one, then, well, whatever.
I like this one because it has a screen and it's made in Japan.
Make some room for it. Yeah.
This place was packed. I mean, I didn't know if these people knew something I didn't, but it seemed like everyone in Madison had picked the same day to go scrapping.
Hey, toaster oven. Turn this into a reflow oven. It's pretty dirty though. I don't know how many other parts you get though. It's basically just a timer and a heating element. Oh, there's another one. Apparently people buy bread mixers and then make bread once and then get rid of them. It's a pretty sweet toaster.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So I was looking at it and thinking there's a lot of like nichrome wire in there.
I'm just saying you could do your hair with it.
Yeah, you could repurpose the outside as a mirror. Actually, that is pretty good. Wow, it's a little funhousey.
Nichrome wire, you could use that as a heating element.
Yeah, so you could make like a bunch of hot wire foam cutters or something.
Well, I mean, this is going to be your main teardown though, right?
I think it is.
All right. When I saw that Karen had chosen a stereo, I knew I had nothing to worry about. My typewriter from the 80s was definitely going to have more useful components than that stupid radio of hers. I don't know, this could be better than a stereo, Karen.
It's pretty
It's
cool.
got a keyboard on it too.
So at first, there was so much to choose from. I was originally leaning towards an electronic dartboard. Then I saw an electronic typewriter, which I thought would be cool. But after a while, I think I found something that's really gonna blow Karen and Ben out of the water.
You can like go up to the end of a fishing dock and be like, who goes there? They got wormed in.
When we got back to the shop, we were all really excited to start tearing down some electronics. So I found this stereo that I think I'm gonna be able to get a lot of useful things out of. It's got a display, it's got 2 different tape decks, it's got a bunch of buttons and sliders and little inputs here, so I think this is gonna be a pretty great find. And it has obvious screws. They're not worried about you voiding the warranty.
So my teardown item is going to be this Panasonic electronic typewriter. I chose it because it has an LCD screen and there's probably stepper motors and stuff inside of it. Kind of almost don't want to take it apart. See, I can type things like the quick round fox jumped over the lazy dogs. It's kind of hard because there's no spell check, so you just have to actually type things correctly the first time. How would that work in today's modern world where no one knows how to spell? I don't know.
Okay, now I'm gonna take apart this old dusty paper shredder that we got from the local thrift store. 120 volts, 60 hertz, 1.5 amps. Oh great, here's some screw holes. So it turns out that my excitement was a little misplaced. I had chosen a paper shredder, and at the time, it seemed like I was gonna come out on top. But now that I see Ben's typewriter and Karen's stereo, I'm not feeling as confident.
Aha, there's one of those like hidden screws that they put in there and you're like, why won't it come out? Stealth screw, the bane of scrappers everywhere. Is there a generic name for Loctite? Large metal disc. This could be some valuable elements. One of the first usable components that I came across was this really nice vacuum fluorescent display. I'm thinking this could be adapted into a clock or radio project somewhere down the line.
Seems like someone wrote, "You're going down, Heckendorn." That was probably Karen. Now you might think, why would anyone use this in the early 90s? The thing to remember, computers were pretty expensive. Like inflation adjusted, what you spent on a PC or a Mac, like an 83 or 84, would be like $7,000 or $8,000 now. Can you imagine spending that on a computer? The new Macintosh, it has every color you can imagine between black and white. The first thing I found inside of my unit was a sweet transformer that could be used as a power supply in a whole bunch of different projects. I was sitting pretty. So as I dug deeper into this awesome typewriter, I found a stepper motor and a DC motor. We have a lot of these around the shop already, but it's always good to have more. More scrap, that's my motto.
Ooh, look at that MDF. There's a good chunk here and a good chunk here. Could totally reuse those spider webs. Yeah. If only this came with speakers, I could use the magnet in the speaker to hold all of my tiny screws. Let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 pulleys in this thing, 9 pulleys. Oh man, there's so many pulleys in this. Totally reuse pulleys. And the assignment for the day will be how to lose to Karen. Oh. This stereo is the gift that keeps on giving. I found a sweet transformer and a bank of potentiometers that could be reused into anything that requires multiple analog adjustments.
Yes, this looks like a vacuum cleaner. Okay, so if I didn't have an attachment that I would like would be a hand drill. Hand drill hand. Karen and Ben, they're only halfway done with their teardowns. And I'm already done. The paper shredder, all I got was these hexagonal rods, AC motor, transformer. The paper shredder's a bust. So lame.
So I saw Felix over there moping over his paper shredder and I thought to myself, hey, this guy looks like he could use a lifeline. Fortunately, the stereo wasn't the only thing I picked up at the thrift store.
So Karen gave me this sweet boombox to take apart. I was kind of worried for a moment, but you know, I could win this.
So we're helping each other out now? I thought this was a competition. Anyway, while Karen and Felix are busy over there being all BFF, I found an 8mm steel rod that I could use to make a 3D printer, and an LCD display I could easily connect to a microcontroller. I don't need friends.
Ben's accusing us of teamwork? What, does he think we're cheating? Well, if he wasn't so busy over there drinking Diet Pepsi and licking plastic, he might have noticed that Felix was genuinely bummed over there. And a sad Felix is not good for shop morale. So we've shown you a few things that you can take apart and salvage and get neat little bits from, but there's a lot of other things that we didn't show you on the show, so we want to take a minute to talk about those. So let's say you want to do a project and you need a motor. So let's say we've got like some little motors here that you can get from anything with a disk drive, so CD drive, DVD, Blu-ray players. You can also get them from like paper shredders or sometimes electronic kids' toys. But if you want a bigger motor, you can get one from like some kitchen appliances, so maybe like a blender or a food processor, or weren't you saying a vacuum cleaner?
Yeah, there's something to think about. So with these disc motors, if you look at them, they have multiple lines going to them. So these are going to be 3-phase DC motors, actually kind of like how a quadcopter motor works.
Okay.
So it's going to take a little bit more effort to get these to spin, but you will have more control over the speed. So basically, if you see a lot of transistors under it, if you see 3 of something, that means it's going to be a 3-phase DC motor.
So here's one that got pulled out of a disk drive. It's got a nice little worm gear on there that can be really useful.
Yeah, and if you look at this, there's 4 connections, plus we know this is used to accurately move back the head. So this is going to be a stepper motor. The worm gear also gives you a very high gear reduction as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that could be useful for something.
Yeah.
And then these are just basically bog standard DC motors. You can tell there's usually a black and red wire that just screams DC voltage. So yeah, those are pretty obvious to use.
Well, and anything that has a motor, a lot of times there's, pulleys of various sizes. So a lot of people don't have a 3D printer at home. So sometimes you can get pulleys and gears out of scrapped electronics.
A pulley may be rotted in an older piece of electronics, but if it's intact, go for it.
Yeah.
But they can rot. I mean, usually that's what will fail. If you find like a 30-year-old VCR, or I'm sorry, a broken belt, it's probably going to be your biggest problem. So yeah, a lot of times you can find gears and pulleys, but just make sure the belts are still in one piece because they can often dry out and break and cause old electronics to fail.
And you can also get some precision rods. Those are nice.
And you can use them as a target on your screen to position where to set things.
Yeah, I've gotten those out of like printers and paper shredders, paper folders, and then those little ones are out of disk drives.
Did you see that sweet 8mm rod I got out of my typewriter?
No, I didn't.
Oh, well, the 8mm is like kind of the standard, for making 3D printers. So
is it?
Yeah, score.
So those are a few examples of electronics, appliances, and components that you could reuse in your next build. So the next time you're starting a project, maybe stop and think, what parts could I potentially reuse from something else rather than buying the part new?
And if you see something cool laying alongside the road, go over there and grab it and rip out whatever cool parts you can. And then when you're done with it, separate it into things such as steel, plastic, metal, rubber, so that when you put it in the bin for recycling, there's a better chance it'll all get reused. It's better as pieces rather than a whole, component, like a computer or something.
So first, reuse all the pieces and then recycle. Yeah.
That's right. If you'd like to watch an extended cut of this video, simply click the link below. And if you want to watch this video over to recycle it, you're more than welcome to do that too. Look, Karen, 4 identical expansion springs. Ace Hardware, that'd be like $10. Still don't know what this thing over here is like. Oh, maybe it is a battery pack. Yeah, I bet it is. See how it goes right to the power supply? So I bet it was some sort of optional battery pack that went here. Yeah, I'm kind of a scrapping expert. They call me the scrapper. No, they call me the scrapper keeper. I had a hard time fitting that onto a business card. I looked up from my typewriter to spy on Karen. She found a 3-digit tape counter. That part should be mine. When she goes to take a break to order more Star Wars t-shirts off the internet, I'll run over and steal it, then pretend like it came from my typewriter. No one will ever know.
Oh, speakers that come off. So obviously there's going to be speakers in here. Save those for last because they'll be very riveting. Whoa, that is a deep screw. Good thing it's Phillips. And I think I have a screwdriver long enough to get this out of here. Here we go. Ta-da! All right, so it looks like there's some kind of a transformer over here. Yeah. I don't know the transformers of the pile. So this boombox is a gold mine. I found an LC75392, which is an electronic volume control chip. It's great. We could use it in a future project. This is gonna be perfect.
Aha! Tiny screws. More tiny screws. It is important to use the correct size screwdriver for the tiny screws, otherwise they will not come out. I don't know, Ben, do you think we should determine the winner by how many screws they have? My pile of screws is bigger than your pile of screws. Oh. Hey, I have reused screws that I have pulled off of random things. Sometimes you're just like, I have no idea what size machine screw this is. I hope I have one in my random bin O screws that will fit it. So the last 2 things I found in my teardown were an antenna and a variable capacitor, which I will totally use to make a DIY crystal radio kit for kids. There was also an LED indicator bank, which would be perfect for this sci-fi control panel we're making in a future episode.
Continuing my excavation of the boombox, I found a CXA1238S, which is AM/FM radio, and a TA819 and quad preamplifier. Oh yeah, this thing is sweet.
I actually kind of want to keep this print head intact because it's cool. I mean, you could really, I guess you could type in anything you wanted, really. Maybe instead of moving the print head across a piece of paper, you could move a piece of paper across the print head. See how it's got the striker here? That strikes, and that's what puts a character on the paper. And I'm assuming there's probably going to be a geared stepper motor in there, so it could very rapidly change the character. There's another motor here that advances the ribbon. So every time you type a character, it brings up new fresh ink. While finishing up my typewriter teardown, I found a Hitachi HD 44780 LCD display. But the best component of all is the rotating print head. I actually didn't take it apart because I feel like it's worth more as a whole, maybe to make a custom label printer.
So in my stereo, I found a VFD, which is a vacuum fluorescent display. It can be used to make a retro clock or a timer. The transformer has lots of taps, so multiple voltages present, including a high voltage for the VFD. Bank of potentiometers could create an adjustment box that could be used when prototyping op-amp circuits, analog mixers, or anything that requires multiple analog adjustments. LED indicator bank makes a sweet sci-fi computer. Antenna and variable capacitor do a crystal radio project with a tuner. DC motor and pulleys can be used in any number of projects that need moving parts. Overall, a pretty good find.
Here's what I found in total. A transformer can be used as a power supply. 8mm steel rod can be used as a linear rail for a 3D printer. Stepper motor drives small loads accurately and quickly. DC motor, general purpose use. Keyboard combined with a microcontroller to make a working input device. LCD display, easy to connect to a modern microcontroller. Print head can be used standalone, so I didn't take it apart. And of course, springs, general purpose use.
So in summation, I found a transformer which could be used in a power supply, some hexagonal steel rods, which could be used in any kind of project that would require rods of the hexagonal type, audio chip, a preamplifier, and a radio chip.
Ended, the Salvage Wars has. And now Max is calculating the results. Drum roll, please.
And the winner is Ben.
Oh, yeah! Good job.
Yeah! I'd like to thank the
Oh, wait, it seems I'm receiving a transmission. Ben didn't win after all. It's Karen. Karen won.
What an upsetting
why?
victory.
Ben, it seems you are disqualified for stealing Karen's timer.
What? I didn't think anyone saw that.
And Felix, you were disqualified for doing 2 teardowns.
All right, I'll admit to that. Okay.
Wait, so I went by default.
Good job.
I win!
You win a shake. Now it's time for a research update.
So a while ago on the Element 14 community, we got a build idea submission from Reese Gallagher. He wanted us to make a Jumanji style board game that had actual moving parts and an LCD screen. And we thought it was gonna be really fun, so we decided we're gonna try to do that. So here's what the original Jumanji board game looks like. This is the closed case. And there are these 4 circles on the surface. And so we decided that since there's 4 of us here in the shop, we're going to put our 4 faces on the outside of the box. But since we're probably going to laser cut it, I couldn't just take a colored image. So I decided to try to optimize it for black and white. Okay, so I have these 3 colored pictures of Ben, Felix, and Max that we've taken to do the thumbnails for each episode. And I took their heads, and with a couple tricks that I found online, was able to turn their faces into more like sketch drawing looking, which will be much better for laser cutting, because you want a more like black and white contrast than just like a grayscale. So these should be pretty good for that. So in the movie, the pawns move by themselves along the path. And so we thought to actually be able to do that in real life, maybe we could use magnets, but we still need to be able to have a way to move 4 different pawns on their own path, because if we had paths crossed and we're using magnets, then you run the risk of catching other pawns while you're trying to move someone else's pawn. So we came up with this idea where we'd have this kind of like spiral. So I generated circles, and we figured if they're rolling like 1 die, then the max of 6 rolls, so we need to have at least enough spaces so they can get at least, like 4 rolls in minimum, even if they roll 6s every time. So we figured out that we could draw these circles like this, and then we broke it up into parts, and then we figured we could do this arm here underneath, and there'd be a magnet here, and so we could have a servo do the math and figure out how many degrees it needs to move each space. And then we can just have each pawn on their own path, move it with magnets, servos. I think it'd be pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and none of the paths will overlap. And then they can all meet in the middle here. So first we need to design the physical components, the mechanisms that are going to be inside the game. So we need to design the mechanism for how the pawns are going to move with the magnets and the servos. We need to design a screen that will have a digital readout of the dice and possibly a timer. And then we're also going to have the actual physical logic gate puzzle on the other section of the board. So once we have those 3 components completed, then we'll know how big our actual game board can be, and we can start designing the case. And all of that will be in a future episode.
Well, that didn't turn out the way I thought it would.
Not at all. Who do you think should have won Salvage Wars? Let us know in the Element 14 community on element14.com/TBHS.
We'd also like to know what sort of things you enjoy scrapping. What devices are good for finding parts? You can also go out in the community to read about our other upcoming episodes, builds, and special events. We'll scrap you next time.
It's a music box lamp from like the 60s or 70s.
They're kind of small, but I don't know, maybe.
So, you know why I got this?
No, I don't.
You can make a actual CRT Pip-Boy with it. Ooh. Look, the scale is pretty close.
That's pretty close.
You never know.
I think I found something that would truly blow the socks off of Cannon Baron.
Cannon Baron.
The Ben Heck Show is brought to you by Element 14, the electronic design community where you can connect and collaborate with top engineers from around the world. Join now at element14.com.